Welcome to the Living Centred podcast, a podcast all about learning together how to live lives which are centred on Jesus. Everyone lives centred on something. Our goal is to learn together how every area of our lives, everything about who we are and how we live, can be increasingly oriented around Jesus and transformed by Jesus. He invites us to a rich and satisfying life, where the good news that he truly is enough changes everything about how we relate to God, ourselves, and the world. In each episode, a different person shares about what it's looking like for them to seek to centre their life on Jesus right now. As we hear their stories, we get to learn together and to encourage one another in what it means for Jesus to be at the centre of our lives. This is a journey we are all invited to, and a conversation we all get to be a part of. Thanks for joining us.
It is my privilege to introduce today James, who will be sharing this week. James, it is good to see you.
Hello.
Oh, that's good. I wonder if we could start by you just sharing a little bit about who you are and what your life looks like.
So I'm James. I'm in my second year of A-levels, so year 13. So at the moment, I've got a lot of work on, coursework, exams coming up, and it's quite a busy time. Also a time of quite a lot of change. I'll be off to uni hopefully next year, so it's kind of, a lot going on and very busy. Yeah.
Well, thank you, James, for kind of pausing for a moment within lots of revision to answer some questions and have a conversation with me. Really appreciate it. And we'll dive straight in with the big question I ask everyone, which is, what does living centered on Jesus look like for you right now?
Yeah, so there's a few things. I think at the moment, the main thing is like recognizing my own limitations, imperfections, weaknesses, kind of realizing that actually I don't have it all in just within myself to cope with all that's going on at the moment, and then looking then to God's perfection and how God can help me in that. That I need to lean on Him, that He's my rock, He's perfect, that I can kind of that I need God to live and kind of, especially in the time of loads of exams and coursework and stuff, that's really important just to be able to like kind of lean on and have as my rock. And then another thing was like wonder at who God is. So wonder at the fact that He sent His Son to save me, that God exists and is with me and has a plan for my life, and kind of something that I've been told and have believed for my whole life, but kind of reassessing that and going how wonderful and beautiful that is. And then from there, learning more about God, knowing, kind of reading Psalms and the Gospels and looking at who Jesus is and just going, who is this God? And just, developing more of an intimate relationship with Him. And then also knowing that this is receiving a gift. I think a lot of the time there's a pressure to kind of really force all of this, but actually knowing that I think Mike did a talk and he was saying actually we should be drawn to learning about Jesus by just wonder of who He is and His love for us. And then also from that, like being filled up with God's love and then that overflowing to others, so praying for others and kind of trying to love them. Yeah.
That's amazing. It's like really, really good. It's just, loads there to kind of consider, contemplate. I love that reality. I think if I'd, at your age, been thinking through, I've just got some limitations and that's okay because God doesn't, and I can rest in that. I think that might have probably transformed my early years in my 20s. I think I'd have been a slightly different person. So that's just so good. And I think that just recognition of just the wonder of God through learning more about Him, just gazing on the wonder of Him and receiving just the gift of Him, which then transforms us in terms of our love for others, is amazing. I guess in it then, if that's kind of what it's like looking like at this moment in time, living centered on Jesus, like what's helping you seek to live in the good of
that? So kind of the Bible, of course, looking at Psalms, a really accessible way of looking at the nature of God. And kind of also that complexity of being in a relationship with God, of actually going, God, I feel I'm really struggling at the moment to look to you, but I know that you're perfect and I know that you're faithful. Also, I've got a book by Andrew Wilson called Incomparable, which goes through lots of names of God and sort of every so often just having a look. It's really short passages. Um, just having a look at learning a bit about God and who He is, grounded in Scripture, is just really helpful actually to kind of recenter yourself. Um, Church is so important. Worship it and listening to talks and doing Bible studies in youth is really important. Just to hear, I think, like you said at the start, stories of how God's at work in other people's lives is really encouraging. And just be able to worship in that setting is amazing. And then the final thing I was going to mention is that I have a prayer book. So I have things on one side of the page, I write down like for each week prayers, and then on the other side an answer to prayer. And so that's just really, yeah, kind of helpful way of centering myself on prayer. I do it kind of every evening before bed and seeing how, like, looking and noticing how God's at work in my life.
Wow, that's really good. And I think just numbers of things there. What we'll do also in just the notes of this recording, we'll just put out a link to Andrew Wilson's book Incomparable, because it is a great read and something I'm sure others would benefit from. I guess then, just loads of ways that you're seeking that are helping you in terms of staying and living centered. But what are you discovering about who God is as you're doing these things?
I think it's again, going back to the limitations, it's how much I need God. When I kind of think, oh, I haven't looked at God yet today, and I look to Him, I kind of are recentered on what I'm actually feeling, on pain or tiredness or, pressure of different things, and actually how much I need God in that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and also learning that looking to God is a kind of, you have to actually intentionally make time for it. It's a choice. I need to um intentionally actually think, um oh, actually I haven't looked at God much today. Maybe I need to set a reminder on my phone. And this is actually quite a challenging thing. Talking about it is actually, you need to carve out time
Yeah.
to look to God. It sounds simple, but it's actually really challenging, kind of building in those habits. Yeah.
Oh, definitely, definitely. And I think that's a challenge all of us face. I don't think you're alone there. I think everyone is that realization that needs to be an intention each day to think, actually, yeah, God, you need to be a priority. Otherwise, we can quickly go through a day without actually remembering that we wanted to spend time with God, and we've not yet done that. I guess then my last question is, how is all of this changing you?
Yeah, I think again it's making me more mindful of myself, of how I'm feeling. Um, I think I've gone through a lot of life just kind of going, okay, I'm okay, I've got this done, I've got that done, that's fine, let's, go to the next day. But actually just thinking, I'm I'm not I'm not feeling great today, and God is enough, and then linking that back to God, just kind of making me more aware of myself and where I'm at. Definitely. Um, yeah.
That's really, really good, James. Yeah, really helpful. And I think it is that, being present. That's what I often say is like the being present isn't just like having a moment where being present with God, but God invites us to be present within ourselves as well, and just recognizing, oh yeah, this is what's going on. And God, I'm inviting you therefore into the reality of what I'm doing, which I think, is just so good to hear. Thank you so much for sharing, James. It's absolutely fantastic. And I know for me, I'm going to be considering just your provocation of just spending time just in wonder of who God is. Of just this coming week, just be considering just the wonder of how God is God, and just the splendor, majesty, vastness of what that means. How about you, my listening friends? What are you going to be considering out of what James has shared this time? Finally, then, lastly, thank you for listening, and I pray you would know more of the wonder of living centered on Jesus this coming week.
Thanks for joining us on this week's episode of the Living Centred podcast. New episodes are released every Monday, and if you enjoyed this episode, please do like and subscribe on your chosen podcast provider to receive them direct each week. Living Centred is produced by the team at Oasis Church in Birmingham, UK, and you can find out more and get in touch with the team via theoasischurch.com.